and we're live. And Merry Christmas there, Mr. Heller. So welcome to Heller Barnes, our annual review. We did this last year where we talk about stuff, and we've got some interesting subjects, but please be sure to throw some comments in there, things you want us to talk about. But Johnny, tell me, how's your year been overall?
I'll be honest. This has been probably the end of the third year in a row of just professionally it's been fine.
Cool.
On every other level, it's been it culminates in the worst set of 3 years I've had.
Oh,
So
good. Let's talk
it's
about that.
no, let's not talk about that. A lot of tough stuff, but in terms of work, I mean, my goodness, I think one of my busiest years, and it's been a joy year. I mean, there's been a lot of great things, some real pluses along the way, and some some learning opportunities
Yeah,
and some
challenges.
frustrations and things. So, how about you? How's this been a
Well,
good year for you? It's
before,
2000, whatever it was, been good for
yeah,
you?
yeah, actually, it's been a pretty darn good year. But I will say, most people who are more mature in terms of who've been around 4 to 6 decades find out that things go in cycles, and you just have some years that are not as good as if you've been around 60 plus years, and I think
Yeah,
both of us fall into that category. Every year doesn't just get better. There are some years that you have minor dips and things that happen and whatever. It's just part of life. So
yeah.
fundamentally, it's been a fantastic year. And then, of course, there's a couple little things where I'm thinking, gee, I could have done better in that area. I certainly have plenty of room for improvement and growth. And, I've got some people that hate me now because I said some dumb things here or there. And I have more people that are happy, but with, what we're doing. So it goes
Oh
both
no, I
ways.
did I did a little kind of a off the cuff poll. Everybody hates it. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I will say this. I will say that in a serious note, and I'll say this particularly around the holiday times because this is while this is happy and joyful, it could also be some tough stuff.
hmm
Um, and I want to say that I've been blessed with a wife who has been very helpful. Joanna's been very helpful and has been very active in trying to push me to see, to get talk to therapists and stuff about things that
yeah,
it's not my nature. It's not how I was brought up,
right.
and I've done it, but it's really made a big difference. And if any of you are having any kind of difficulties that seem beyond your, hey, let's call a buddy and have a beer and chat about it stuff, go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you just a word of warning that you should remember always. The social media, which is just great for staying in touch with people, is not the best place to get mental and spiritual health advice, and to don't put all your troubles out there in front of a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, particularly around this time of year. Here's a horrible thing that's happened, and and you get these people who some are well-meaning, some are not.
Right.
But you hear or see the wrong thing at the wrong time, it can really throw you into a bit of a tizzy. So make sure you're doing the right thing. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, and enjoy the good things. Because I don't care what situation, there's always good things.
Yeah.
Usually they're funny. Usually it's someone else falling down in front of you. But good things are good things. So make sure you pay some attention to that.
Well, on a tech note here, I'm going to change your audio. You just
Am I
got,
soft?
yeah, now you're up. Now you're up where
Oh,
you should be. That's my
I said
fault.
a lot of deeply important things that y'all missed. Okay.
Yep. And then so everyone's going to notice that Johnny has just become much
Louder?
louder, much louder. Yep. Yep. I realized, hey, wait a minute. When we get out, we have this great thing. We're here 10, 15 minutes before we start, and we're discussing things, and we were having such a good time laughing at each other, mostly him laughing at me, that I didn't set something. I just reset it, so now it's right. So Johnny should be much, much better. Yeah, volume good now.
Okay,
Thank you
sorry
there.
about all that.
That's no,
Anyway,
that's
so I'll repeat real quick what I was saying. If you feel yourself in need of some real therapy, social, physical, mental health therapy, go and get it.
yeah.
There's no
Here's
negativity like existed in Don's youth in the 1800s, and right now you can go ahead and talk to people, and it's okay, and it does you some good.
yeah. And I think also nobody really knows all the little things that other people have gone through, and there's a lot of sympathy as you around people that are a little more mature because they've had some tough times over their life. It's not all upside. One of the terrible things about social media is I don't post the things that didn't work for me, generally
Yeah,
speaking.
yeah,
I post the highlights, and that the problem is we're seeing everybody else's highlights, and you think that Heller's never had a down day, unless you happen to know behind the scenes. It's like he's like everybody else, where business could be perfect, and then you have moments in the rest of our life that's not going so well temporarily. It's a
yeah.
cycle. So that's
I have my butler dress me every morning the same as you guys.
yeah, yeah. So we all, and then we all have families, and as the families get big enough, there are some fantastic 98% of them, and then there's a couple that we go, oh, Uncle Bob, not so great. So yeah, Sherry, I love that comment.
But,
Is if you're feeling low, have Don turn up the volume, which
oh, I'm by the way, I'm not feeling low right now at all. I feel absolutely great.
yeah,
Everything's splendid and wonderful. It's been a tough few years for me for personal reasons, but it hasn't. And here's something: it hasn't affected my work very much. What I've done more work. I think I've done over. I think I have to count. I think I've done over 30 books this year.
wow,
Usually, yeah. So, and I've got some great ones coming up already for the new year. So, career-wise, things are going fairly well. Um, yeah, here's Maxwell as my wife, the wonderful Emmy, often says regarding social media, don't compare your insides with other people's outsides.
yeah.
Also, that's kind of gross. Your inside, everything inside should stay there. I don't want to hear about it. I don't know
But I
about it.
like the spirit of that.
Yeah, I like the
Okay.
spirit of it. In real life, ugh.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, the more you learn about people, the more you find out everybody's got something, and everybody's got something in their past. Everybody's got some stuff they're dealing with, and there's a lot of help available. And yeah, my mom's a counselor, so I know a lot about stuff that I don't want to say I shouldn't know about, but she did substance abuse counseling. She has her master's degree and that sort of thing. And, she's dealt with some situations where she's talking to people that are having some tough periods. And she would always kind of like, oh no, I hope you don't have this thing. And so she would teach me all this stuff to avoid and whatever. So I've been around somebody who's been around people with substance abuse a lot. And I guess my grandfather was an alcoholic, so or great grandfather. Anyway, it's back a few generations, and of course, they say, oh, that causes some side effects down the road where the children of all this, it just changes things. So we're all learning, we're all doing some good things. Oh, or behind the scenes with others highlight reel. Yeah, Lisa, my wife. You see somebody's highlight reel and you just think it's all upside for them,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's like, "Oh gosh, I don't have that many highlights."
Even your phone's playing little highlight reels for you.
Yeah,
You actually hit a button, and all of a sudden, all this musical's there, and you're dancing in Central Park. I
yeah,
don't remember this.
yeah.
I certainly don't feel like that now.
But I like the memories sometimes that come out of Facebook, like, I
Yeah.
posted something 4 years ago, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, there's that picture of my dog when he was listening to me the one
All the
time."
memories come back to me with, all the stuff I posted, anti-Trump stuff in 2016. I'm thinking, "That's pretty apropos right now." But it didn't work when I talked about it then.
Well,
By the
yeah,
way, we're changing the name of our show for next year.
yep,
Um, we're debating 2 old guys bitching or bitching with Barnes, which is
yeah.
my favorite.
I like the second one because I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, bitching with Barnes. And you just call up, and instead of talk about the business, we'll just whine.
well, I'm highly experienced in that area, so I think
Yeah.
that, it just comes naturally. No, I don't even have to prep for the show if we're gonna that's what we're gonna do. Hey.
So, your guests will come out and go, "What's got your goat? Let's talk about it." And
Well, you know what? We could start doing a political show too. We could really get some bitching going.
oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, speaking of which, by the way, we've talked about this. If you guys have questions, please put them in there. And also, and a lot of you will, probably watch this later, one hopes, feel free to, asked to be, on our show as a guest. I have already asked, Maxwell Zenner, who's here in the audience today. We wanna get him on the show. I've already done some booking for 2025, thank God. But we wanna get some of you guys in here. So, talk to you. It doesn't matter what level you're at. We'll talk to you at whatever level you are. I mean, Max is a functional idiot, so we're gonna talk to him at that level, I think. It'll be helpful for
Well,
him.
so now there would be two of us on the show at that level.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to lead then. See?
Okay. I do like the Barbara coming up with a good title. People
Bitchin'.
come up with good titles here. We've
Yeah.
got, you know.
The bitchin' hour. No, we're a little guy. How about the wee bitchin' hour?
Okay.
All right, we got it.
All
Bi
right. So, one of the things we do want to talk about, we have two subjects that we were discussing earlier. One has to do with ACX and Audible, with they're dipping their toes in what, and they're cheating, but they're calling their AI replica voices, which I think now that's a good marketing from their point of view.
Yeah,
And what
hide the
was the
truth
other
from
thing?
idiots.
And what?
The other thing is, and this is something that if you're in
Oh,
SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, the actual, body that negotiates for us legally, we get a note from, Jane Love. Jane and Love and Richard Larkin are the head people for the audiobook team. Sent a note out to most actors, and I'll just to nutshell it if you didn't get it, because it went to union narrators, not all of you are in the union. Basically saying that they've come up to a issue. How best to say this? I don't want to be as blunt as I thought the note was, but apparently a number of audiobook narrators are getting way too many pickups and also ghosting the publisher and not getting pickups and projects in on time and not responding to emails regarding it. So let's talk about that a little bit. Um,
and we have to
and
preface, though, because first off, it's a very real thing, and it's going to cause grief for all of us. Secondarily, 98% of the people listening to this show are not going to be the problem children,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you already care about. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care about advancing yourself in the industry. So we have to figure out also with others, how do we reduce this problem for the publishers, because it does become a problem. So explain the problem a little bit, and
Well,
then
okay, I'll explain the problem, and I also want to discuss 2 points in reference to it, in response to it. One is professionalism from the actor, and 2 is an issue with, retakes, we'll call it the positron effect. So those 2 things have come up. But
okay.
first, again, the issue is that actors, and again, if this doesn't apply to you, then it's not you. So don't change anything if everything's swell. But some actors apparently have been ghosting publishers. I think it's specific to a genre, and I don't want to get into that, but I believe that there's a lot of unprofessionalism. First off, we know there's been a lot of talk about in your dual or multicast narration, you're not sharing with your fellow actors how you're doing the role, your audio takes, what you sound like. If Don and I are working together, we both have to voice Karen. I want to know whoever gets to voice Karen first should set the stage for the rest of us. So let's hear Don does Karen. If he's not going to tell me when my turn comes to tell you what Karen said, it's going to sound weird because I'm not doing Don's take on Karen. That's as simple as I can make it. You've got to stay in touch with your fellow narrators. Talk to the publisher, your casting person if you need any help there. But you need to be in touch, particularly with dual narration. My what I've heard, don't know for facts. Heard that a lot of the men in dual narrations, male female narrations, don't share their stuff, don't stay in touch. And then I heard that a lot of people don't want you to stay in touch. They want you just to email them. You don't need to call anybody. Apparently, okay, this is not true for Don and me, but apparently for many actors, the idea of using a phone for something other than texting is anathema. So if that's the issue, then go ahead and text. But get in touch. If someone doesn't want, if a phone call seems to be too pushy,
Yeah,
don't make one. Maybe that's the wrong call, but I find that
that doesn't work
personally
for us.
ridiculous. But there you
We
go. But you need so look. So the letter came down was kind of heavy-handed, I thought, the way they said it. But I think it was Jane and Richard having heard a great deal from publishers and understand at this time they're trying to negotiate all the contracts so they all start and end around the same time and have similar numbers. Right now, Don Barnes's publisher contract could end in February. Johnny Heller's publisher contract could end in June, and you got to keep negotiating all the time. Easier if they all come around the same time. You could do the host of negotiations, get it done, and everybody's got a similar start and end date, and all the fast salary and pension jumps could happen at the same time. In terms of what the actor can and should be doing, again, if this is not a problem for you, then it's not a problem. You don't worry about it. But if you're hired, if you take a job from Macmillan, from Simon and Schuster, from anybody, independent, anybody, ICX, anybody, and there's a date when some project has to be turned in or part of it, whatever. Meet those dates. If there is a note coming from the person who hired you, if Don Baarns is casting for Macmillan and he casts me, he says, Johnny, I need to talk to you about this character. There's been some changes. And I don't respond. Once, if it gets me on a Friday, maybe he's not going to hear till Monday. Whatever, but if you don't respond to that, that creates a real problem.
Yeah.
Understand from the publisher's perspective, when they hired Don to do the book, Don, are you available? Yes, I am. Can you get it to me February 21st? Yes, I can. Okay. Let me know if you have any problems. Here's the book. Here's some punctuation. Here's some pronunciation stuff. Here you go. Well, then they don't want to hear from you unless there's something that comes up. It's off their plate. They don't want to hear it again. Okay? They do not want to hear it again. They want the book in on time. And as we've said many times in the show, one of the reasons I get to work as often as I do and do as many different genres is because I'm simply never late. I'm
Right.
not.
Right.
If you're going to be late, and you can be if you get COVID, you got a flu, you got something horrible happens, you're blown up in a killing explosion, things can happen. So whatever goes on, you just got to keep them in the loop of knowledge. So that's professionalism on your part. I'll say it again. If you, the actor, the narrator, are behaving professionally, then nothing I'm saying you have to worry about it. You're doing fine. It's those who are behaving unprofessionally that are staining our craft
Yeah.
with their unprofessionalism, their unpreparedness. Some people are not. Oh, that's something else came in the letter. A lot of actors aren't prepping the book.
Oh,
They're
wow.
not prepping. Now, it doesn't mean, listen, if you hire someone to prep it for you, that's still prepping. That's your process. I'm not here to talk about your process. I'm talking about going into the read cold or not. You wouldn't do it on a commercial. You wouldn't do it in a theatrical play. You'd never not get the script first.
Right.
If you get the book first and you haven't looked at it and sit down, and then on page 308, you find out that the main character's voice is totally different than what you've been doing, that's a problem. So you've got to read the thing first. It's part of the job. So that was one of the issues in the letter. The other issue that comes out is the matter of retakes. You're going to have retakes. Everybody's going to have retakes. I just did a book. I'll be honest, a book about Elvis, and I got a bunch of retakes. And depending on how close I am with the publisher and understand this, please understand this. If Don's a casting director for Macmillan, and here's Colette Pepperell. Let's say Colette's working for Don at Macmillan as a proofer. So she gets the book. She gets Johnny's book. She proofs it. I get sent the pickups, and I go, "This is bullshit. I didn't make a mistake. What?" And I start yelling, and I have a problem. And I said, "Don, your proofer sucks. I hate whoever it is. I hate that person. Doesn't know what they're doing." Well, if Don works with Colette, chances are he's going to be friendlier to Colette than to me because he works with her all the time. So there has to be a certain shared respect. If I know the publisher and the people well, I'll make some jokes. I'll say, page 7. Oh, come on. I'll say it literally on the tape. That's not a mistake. If it sounds fine, I'll do it for you. Generally, I make some sort of thing like that, and then I'll do the retake.
Right.
I know, and everybody on this call is professional knows that positron doesn't know the difference between in, on, the, no, they hit that positron doesn't recognize. So let's say I had 40 some odd retakes on Elvis. It would have been actually probably 8. And I pointed that out. I did them all. But when they said I didn't say in, for example, and I did. You did. So here's the issue. Everything that Jane and SAG-AFTRA wrote about is a note to you to be professional, polite, treat these people the way you would want to be treated were the roles reversed. That doesn't mean that all the retakes you get are actually retakes. However, at the end of the day, the name on the book is not going to be, if Colette Pepperell is the proofer, it's not going to say proof by Colette. It's not going to be there. It's going to say, narrated or performed by Johnny Heller. And the fact that I said wash instead of wash, that's going to come back to me. So if I did mess up things, no, there's nobody involved with this process who's trying to make it hard for you. The problem comes in is positron is, and this is going to lead to our next segue nicely. Positron is an AI kind of thing. It's a machine that tells you what you did right or wrong, and it can't act,
Right.
nor can it understand acting, nor can it understand pauses. I have a lot of issues with it. I don't like it. I'm against it. Um, I'm against the use of it without the use of human proofers as well. I'm also against having to retake ins and ons and thes and uhs when I know I did it right, and I can hear I did it right. However, it's only when you think about it, it's an hour of your time max,
Right.
usually.
Right.
How much bitching do you wanna do?
Well,
Understand that at the end, if Macmillan, Simon& and Schuster, Penguin Random House, or Don Baarns Productions has X number of books they put out, and you've complained about every single one with the same thing, like, "Oh, screw this guy.
yeah.
Why would we'll get somebody else."
Right.
Because so that doesn't mean you can't stand your ground and say things, but how you do it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And also understand that if a lot of those retakes are really not yours and you're concerned that there's so many, you're gonna think, "Oh my god, Heller's awful. He's got 150 retakes on a 13-page book." So on a pop-up book.
With a good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tailwind
So
behind you.
so you say, "Look, I'm gonna do this." I always begin because when you do your proofing, track,
Right.
like, "Okay, here's the retakes. I've gotta say, I disagree with almost all of them, but here they are." So I haven't hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
I'm still kind of a humorous person. They take it in the thing, and they probably know that in and on and the is messed up. But you know what? I'm just gonna. It's easier just to do it than to bitch about it.
Right.
If it's an acting retake, then I'm probably not gonna do it. I say, I'm sorry. That was a choice I made.
Right.
Do you understand the difference, you guys? Because that's what I think we need to do. So just be aware of the business. Be aware that if you're working in a dual or multi-voice thing, you may indeed have to be in touch with some of your acting friends, or there should be some procedure in place that allows you. Maybe there's a place that you can upload your version of Karen so that Don and I and Susie and Mark can all listen and hear so we all know, okay, that's Karen. She's from Boston. Okay, got it. So things don't have to be hard, so don't make it hard.
Right. And Colette
Don, your
has a,
thoughts?
a comment here, a question. Is this unprofessional attitude a new trend in your experience? Why do you think it is?
Yes.
Kind of a loaded question.
Yeah. Well, thanks for firing it my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Johnny,
think it's a
Johnny, give
I
us your
think
point of view here.
it's a newer thing because a lot of untrained the big boon in audiobooks happened, when people discovered they could buy, home studios with their credit card,
Yeah.
didn't take any time to study the craft of acting, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of newer narrators who think they're,
And they get away with it though, but here's the thing. I can get probably 15, 20, 50 books on ACX over a couple 3-year period, and be just okay at this. Like you could get a series, like you might get lucky, and then you end up with a whole series. So now you have 15 books, and so people think, "Wow, I must be really good at this because I have 15 books." You go when publishers are hiring you regularly, major, then you're doing something right because they have plenty of choices. When it's I'm auditioning on ACX, it might be that you're fantastic. You could be. And it also could be that you're just okay and don't know it yet. And later over time, you'll learn that. But so many
and
people can get started at this without doing any prep work, and they do. And then, of course, the problem is it hurts everybody when these people don't do the pickups, and then they're trying to negotiate good rates with the unions, and they're saying, yeah, but we have problems with these people. One, they might have taken a chance on somebody that they shouldn't have taken a chance on. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, the publishers are going to become more selective over time, which also means those of us who are doing it right are going to stand out. Sometimes even if you're nice, you
yeah,
stand out as being
or
it,
professional, yeah.
yeah, yeah, right. You just kind of do the right thing. Like you're on time. Since when is being on time some magic that's Heller magic? Heller's on time.
Yeah, I gotta say that I've always said to my students and to everybody in workshops, you don't need a degree from the, Yale Juilliard or anything to do this.
Right.
And you don't have to have trod the boards, you don't have to, however, studying some acting, taking or at the minimum, some coaching. And I know that in the 52,000 groups that Don has, all these newer people saying, "I never had a lick of coaching. Coaches are out here trying to get people all the time. I don't need any coaching, and I make, whatever I make a." Listen, there's exceptions to every single rule,
Yep.
and there are people who are gonna make money doing this because the sound of their voice.
Right.
And I will tell you, I know some professional narrators doing fairly well, and the sound of their voice is wonderful, and I listen to them, and they're successful, and I think they're absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Johnny Heller, don't like him, so I don't listen to him. Yeah, I don't have to. You don't need my seal of approval. You need to get the job.
Right.
But if you wanna work consistently in this business and be looked at as a professional, I think skipping out on being coached in acting in a general way, being coached and being a more engaging storyteller, and there are a multitude of coaches with theatrical backgrounds who are really good, and a whole bunch who aren't, in my opinion. You shouldn't miss it. You should take advantage. You should try. Always try. This is a creative endeavor.
Right.
At one point, do you stop learning as a creative artist? And I think at death, perhaps.
Yeah. Is that uh, I always talk about my instructor who played on Stevie Wonder things and had gone to Juilliard. And I remember me as a little kid, I'm 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there telling him, I want to be the best drummer in the world. And he didn't laugh in my face the way an adult might, but he
Yeah.
chuckled to himself and basically said, look, you may get better than your peers, but you'll never be close to your potential. And it's like, he says, I'm still learning now. I thought he was an old guy. I think he was in his 40s and I was 15. And I just thought, wow, I don't know how anybody could be that old. But Gene Stewart was, he understood that it's actors, all performers. You can be a better performer next year than you are this year, no matter if you've been doing it 9 years, 9 months, 9 weeks, or 90 years. You'll never be the best you can be. You could be better at it.
Everybody in our audience, just look at your body of work, whether it's 2 books or 100 books. Wouldn't you love to redo the first few?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You would, of
Yeah.
course you would. You're better. You're better. Every single one of you is better now than you were when you started.
Yep, and it'll never change. So anyway, it just works out that it's a not performers have a non-ending thing. It's not like we go to law school, we get our degree, and now, and even everybody, if practice medicine, you practice law, you're out there and you're doing it. You better be better 2 years from now than you were 5 years from now, or you get replaced. And that'll lead us to our other subject. How
Yes.
you think the AI? So let's ACX. It's Chris. Well, I can't remember his last name. Chris asked me about this, and one of the sent me a message that said, "Hey, talk a little bit about ACX as
Julia?
a new program that is they call it. Oh, instead of calling it AI, they're calling it replica voices, which I thought
Mm.
is, somebody in their marketing department did a good job with that because it's instead of saying, "Hey, crappy AI voices, we'll call them replica voices," but at least they're giving them. I think they're going to be labeled, or that's part of the deal that the audience would know that they're replica voices.
Will it
Um,
say replica voice by Don Baarns or just
I do
replica
think
voice?
that they say if I under first off, it's in beta, so how it turns out ultimately, but many of us have received these messages that say you've been invited to join the replica voice beta as a narrator, and they also are soliciting authors who have
Yeah.
books probably on an ebook format or print format that don't have a corresponding audiobook. Now, I have a theory about this in terms of the types of people they're going to approach, but here's the deal. Audible and ACX wants to fill out their catalog, and they're offering authors who don't have audio for their books the chance to have what they call an AI voice, but the narrators get to decide that they are going to allow their replica voice to audition or only their natural voice, and you get a choice, and they're testing it. And when they do this, they're offering the authors more money, 30%, but then the one thing that they're doing that I think is I have mixed emotions on this. By the way, so Johnny and I talked about this before. We both disagree. Like, I don't like it, but I am not Audible, so we're going to argue today as if I'm arguing for it. Johnny can argue against it. And we're having a discussion here, but both of us are subject to change our mind 2 weeks from now as new things come out about it. We know where we fundamentally stand, which is like, I've heard the results and think, I would not want this as a listener. The only thing is that it depends on what category of books they put it into. And some of these books, for a narrator, would not pay out enough for you to do in the real world. So if you wouldn't, if they came out with a set of books like that, uh, when I was young, I did a book on prepping. Does anybody know what prepping is? Doomsday prepping.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I did a series of them because basically the guy sent out an audition thing, and I sent back a, hey, I can fog a mirror. This was 12 years ago. And he accepted it within about 15 minutes of my audition. It was because nobody in their right mind would have ever agreed to do this. I saw it and thought, oh, this is dumb. No one will ever hear of this. I'll do it. Because it literally, I'm talking about, this is 12 years ago. I did it. I did a series of books on doomsday prepping. You go find them and you can laugh at me. Good, go for it. But I was brand new to the business and I just did them. Well, it turned out that he actually did a whole series of really crappy books and then he bundled them, and I made a lot of money on it over time inadvertently. I did it for the experience and they were 1 hour books, hour and a half. You go back in the day. Well, in some ways, I could argue this AI thing. If I got 10% of 100 books that were probably only going to sell 100 copies each, but let's pretend that the books are the types of books that are only going to sell 100 copies in Audible. If I took a normal royalty share where I spend, let's pretend it's a 10-hour book, and I spend 30 to 60 hours if I'm new, probably 60 to 100 hours if I'm new, doing that, the payout on getting my, let's just say, minimum 50 hours back on that 10-hour book, I have to sell a lot of copies to get better than minimum wage. If I'm getting 10% and they sell 100 copies, but I didn't have to do any work other than the initial feed their thing, then I have mixed emotions about it as to whether it's worth doing, because I'm going to get 10%, but I don't have to spend 50 hours to get that 10%. So that's kind of, and the question is, like, the epiphany I had today was, hey, I could do that. I'm not a good actor, but I could do that. And so I'm thinking, wow, if Don's thinking I could do that and get my 10% of, it won't be a lot, but what if it came out to be 100 or 200 or $300 a month over 100 or 200 books over a couple of years? I think a lot of people who are like I'm a non-actor are going to take them up on that and do it. And the question is if you're a good actor and it's labeled that it's a replica and you're getting 10% on some of those things, and you just built up a whole catalog of things over a few years, I don't know if that's a bad thing. So I could be totally wrong with my thinking, Johnny, but I'm trying to argue that point of view as if I believe in it. Did the
Yeah, well,
sincerity
that's a
come
nice
through?
see, acting. Nice job, pal. Um,
So
you win the Stanislavski Prize for the day.
thank you. Thank you.
I win the
And I
prize
have to
again
thank
when
my
you start.
agent and my dog for listening to me all those years.
I'm gonna win the prize one gets for having hair like a chia pet. Okay, so
Where am I missing it, Johnny? What's
yeah,
the counter argument to that?
all right, here a few things. First, if you recall when ACX first began, and it was a I think ACX is responsible for a lot of the trouble we have in the industry, a
Okay,
lot,
I agree,
because it's not
because anybody can
watched
do
over
it.
enough. There are some problems. It's a great idea. The idea of a Tinder between authors and actors is a fine idea, and that's how it should be. However, there are and originally it was Don put a book on, I would do it, and so I'd get I think it was 25%, and Bezos took 50, and
Right.
he needed a yet another yacht, so then it became 60, 2020. So this is a way to get. We all talk about passive income. One of the reasons actors, particularly voice actors, and I still get paid. I did some Murphy Brown when I lived. That's how old I am. When I lived in California.
Wow.
So I was guest star in Murphy Brown. So I still get loot from that. I did a whole bunch of cartoon voices for a show called Monsters, which I think still runs, and I still make residual. That's passive income. In the audiobook world, there isn't any passive income unless there's a royalty share agreement That becomes passive income because you've done the work and the money begins to hopefully roll in. Okay, so here's the deal on this. If you say you'll be part of the AI experience, there's still Johnny Heller, book by Johnny Heller, book by Johnny Heller. What's the word they're using?
Replica voice.
Replica voice. Well, I know it's a beta test, but once I've agreed to the beta test, I don't know, and I haven't seen the agreement. I don't know how my voice is protected, and I don't know if they can do whole books without me doing a damn thing. That frightens me a little bit, and I don't know if there's any acting choices going on. It's just because I have a certain you can if you hear me, you know it's me. I
Right.
sound just like me, and
Right.
other people don't. Yeah, if everybody's ever impersonated you, then you know you've got a special voice because people can impersonate you. I
No,
hear people doing my
nobody's
voice all the
impersonated
time.
me. All right. I don't. I'm non. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody
no,
cares.
yeah, yeah. So the point is, so let's say you start doing this. Okay, I think you're selling out your talent, you're selling out your skills for a less than listenable product. I think if these 1 and 2 hour books are not well written books, the market shouldn't be pushing them out. They should be throwing them away. Competitive markets tend to let crappy products go by the wayside, and there's a reason for that. Bad stuff doesn't sell. Yeah, but there are always exceptions to the rule, like silly little remember the pet rock craze and the Garbage Pail Kids and just weird things. Not that they're bad products, but they're weird that they would sell.
Right.
There's always something that sells.
Right.
If you do an AI project, voice replica, and you are part of the beta thing, and there's some success and you make some money, this is okay. I'm thinking a couple of things. One, if I'm a publisher, I don't wanna hire you
Right. Oh.
because the listeners, the audiobook buyers don't know if they're not gonna be swift enough, no offense to the buyers, swift enough to pick out that it's replica Heller or real Heller. And if they listen when they listen to it, they might know, but by then they've already bought the book. Whatever damage is gonna be done to my reputation is done. Most of these books they're doing are not good books that you'd say no to anyway.
Right. Well,
I also
here's the flip side though. All right, I want to play bad guy here because I'm good at that by the way. We what but if they weren't going to go anyway, first off, there's not going to be a big audience. But if I made $100 a month over the course, a couple $100 a month, my wife,
yeah.
she's talking. She put a little comment in there. $200 a month is life changing for a lot of families, and I generated residual income of a few $100 over time because we were talking about this earlier, so she knew I was going to take this side, so that's why she's helping me statistically here. But so it's because I'm going, how do I argue this? Okay, I'm going to be a lawyer here. But it does work out that people that I wouldn't. First off, I'm not going to go put the 50 hours into that book. So if I put none, because I did read through it, it is supposed to be labeled replica. It's a replica voice, and the author who chooses it has the option when they choose it to pick get an audition from me for my real voice. So they have their choice when they're doing it. Is
Of real Don
currently
or replica Don?
what's that?
They have a choice of real Don or replica
Yes, yeah,
Don?
yeah, yeah. That's the thing is they're not telling the authors that they have to take the replica. They're telling the authors that they could do the replica. Here's the pluses in my or I don't know, this is the pluses on that one. They also can at the same time get an audition from me for an authentic real voice and a real narration. So it's not just replica or just and that it's going to be labeled on the final product is I understand it today. Subject to they could have changed those terms even since I read them subject to I don't know what happens in the future. So there's a lot of fine print in there. If it came down to is clearly labeled somehow that the audience knows and the author knows that it's a replica, then I'm more inclined to say that's a maybe. That's a more positive maybe than if they're doing it and people can't tell, quote unquote, they don't realize Don's not great when it's the real Don. You get Don and AI together, and that's like, okay, my dog probably would not be happy with that
Yeah,
performance.
yeah. If it's a book
Mm,
that's arguably not gonna be super popular anyway,
mhm.
the things I found in my navel,
Right.
just something.
Okay.
Um, well, that might be popular actually, but let's say but just, something, factory dust I've encountered, so, whatever. So, even if you give your voice, you're even as an AI, even
Mhm.
as a I forgot the term again,
Yeah,
I keep
replica
forgetting,
voice, whatever.
a replica voice. You are still aiding and abetting a non-performance phenomenon that's guaranteed, engineered, planned to put you and your colleagues out of business in time.
And here's the
Uh,
question.
and
Is
we understand the way that Amazon,
Uh-huh.
the behemoth of Amazon, would be willing to mess with this and give, lip service to the actor by saying you can do performances or not, but otherwise it's replica. If they're putting their feet in their water, it's 'cause they wanna jump in the pool.
Yeah.
One of the things that it's much cheaper to make a book without humans involved.
Correct. There's no
You can
15-minute checkpoint. They already one of the things I do know from the author's point of view, if you do a real voice, you get a 15-minute check to say, "Oh, I like it or I don't." And they have told the authors if they choose the replica one, there's no 15-minute check, and there's a kill fee if they decide that "Ooh, I'd rather have Heller actually read it rather than his replica voice." So
it's all engineered to make money for Amazon,
right.
not to enhance the art or the artist in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
It's a chance for us to partake and participate willingly in the death of our business.
The
If that's something you wish to be part of, go, but stop following me and stop friending me and stop sending me notes. Bugger off. I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, well, and that's
Merry
the thing,
Christmas.
and the question is, do they get enough people who are willing to do it that are good enough? And the
They're
q
no, but they're not good enough. The people are gonna do this. I mean, look, I know that some famous actors' voices. We've seen Jimmy Cagney and Jimmy Stewart in commercials today. You know, their voice, their I don't know how that the estate worked it out. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. And we've seen in some fun like Zelig and what's the Steve Martin one? I can't think of it. But where they use old scenes from movies and they put it in, and that's kind of a charming use of the old film. You know,
right,
it just puts it in a it juxtaposes in a different scene. But to take Don Barnes, take Johnny Heller, to take uh, uh, um, Colette, Lisa, Joan, anybody, I'm looking at the names you're like, to put somebody in these things and pretend it's actually performance
right.
is antithetical to the real performance. And all we're do I mean, AI is here, and I think there have to be ways to incorporate it, and perhaps the way to incorporate it is indeed to have AI voices do shit books about, different kinds of dust or, how to avoid a
Doomsday
mosquito
prepping.
infection. Anything, just, do something for an hour and a half book that no one's ever gonna do because there's no money in it.
Right.
But there's something to be said for quit writing hour and a half books that suck. If you have a book that's not gonna make any money because it's not interesting and no one wants it, why should I reward you for having written it by trying to make some money out of it? Quit
Yeah.
writing shitty books.
They've already gone down that route though, because they'll publish anything in an ebook format, and now you can self-publish everything. So because you can self-publish books, there are all sorts of books, and authors have egos too. They want their book in audio. I think a lot of authors do royalty share because they want to be able to tell their friends, "Oh, I have a book in audio format." Even though they know when they put it up there for audition, it ain't gonna sell anything because it didn't sell anything and it isn't something that anyone else wants to hear, but they want their relatives to know they have an audiobook out there.
And
So that's the
well,
writer.
in the larger picture, you and Lisa are traveling. Joanne and I are traveling. We see something when I see some sort of art installation similarly, we were just in Quebec about a month ago. And there's bits of statue and art and stuff, and some wonderful and some like, "What?" And my look always said, "Hey, look, there's some art." Now, I'm trying not to be judgmental, but I am judgmental as an individual. So I look and we say about the art. Now, if it leads to discussion about art and about bigger picture, that's what art's supposed to do,
Right.
I think. And I think that art is something that's for, by, and about
Yeah,
humans,
about people. Yeah. Yeah.
plain and simple.
Right.
And I think machines have no appreciation because they're machines, nor do I anticipate them having we've seen enough apocalyptic films
Yeah.
to know what engaging in a conversation with your air conditioner is gonna lead to.
Right.
That it would indicate to me, stop personifying your plugged in mechanical crap. I mean, if then that as soon as we start giving Audi awards and Sova's awards to Don Barton's MacBook Pro as opposed to my IBM, what I mean? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I think we need to put the human back in art.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And I'm antithetically, I'm completely opposed to AI, and almost I mean, I know it's helpful in a lot of ways, but it's still like, look at the photos, there's, like, extra fingers coming out, and they'll get everything right eventually.
Right.
But to take a human voice and for the human to agree to be replicated so I can make another $100 a month, you know what? There's gotta be a way to open a meth lab. There's gotta be a better way to make $100 a month.
Yeah, okay. So, you know what? I certainly can't disagree with you, and it's fun to try to be on the other side of that argument. But the reality is also I don't know, and I also don't know whether it'll get better. And are there a whole class of books where it's worth doing that? But I don't know. So for right now, that's our take on it. And Johnny and I reserve the right to, as this whole thing continues to evolve, and we're watching it and we're talking to people all the time about it. And obviously, uh, in the beginning, we think absolutely not. And then it's possible that 6 months from now, we will change our mind on some aspect of it because we're learning and there's
Well,
something about it. And it still has to be fair toward the actor and put out a quality product or something that at least works at whatever level it needs to work. I do know the drum machine thing. I talk about that all the
yeah.
time. There are a whole bunch of computers. There are one guy sitting around writing a movie score today, and he's writing the drum parts, and he doesn't employ a real drummer during that.
Yeah.
And some of it's amazing.
Well, I could see that with the bass guitar, but not the drum. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
well, when I think about it, though, you think about, let's say, because here we are, we're all vocal in our group, voice artists.
right.
Well, let's say your voice is gonna be I get news from my doctor, my voice, I won't be able to work in a year, my voice will be gone. Do I want to sell Johnny Heller, performer, to AI so that I can continue on? Or is the body of work I currently have representative of who I am and what I've done? I mean, that's another question. I mean,
Yeah,
do I and if I'm still let's say I'm still gonna live another 20, 30, 50, 100 years, but vocally, I can't work in this business anymore for whatever reason. Is the money I'm making by lending the voice that's currently there
right.
to the future audiobooks, and I'll make money off it to keep keep bread on the table. I see something like that comes up, that kinda throws a wrench into the
Yeah,
artist for people
right.
argument that I have, which is, really lovely and lofty, but when you're hungry, who gives a shit
Yeah,
about whether or not I'm voicing a laptop or an Amazon stick, who cares?
right.
If it puts money in my so I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That's the dilemma about the whole thing is there are you can make a counter that
yeah,
Lisa mentioned here about Don Rickles that they used after he happened to pass and they were already in the production of Toy Story and he had voiced some of it and he passed in the middle of the thing, I guess. And I don't know every detail, so I could have that wrong, but so he had been a character in the other series, and they worked with his estate and did some AI stuff to have him continue to voice the rest of it. I mean, now that's an exceptional case that he's gone,
yeah, yeah.
but they're trying. So yeah, there's
Well,
some.
some of my best work I expect will happen long after I'm gone.
Yeah, it could happen without me. That my part, all the same thing. So there are some cases for it. Obviously, we don't have every answer on it, but it is a discussion worth having because no matter what you do, you're subject to being wrong over time, and we are going to keep up and do our best. So if you have some input for us and some counter arguments or some different arguments or different discussions, not an argument, we want to hear them because I may be missing something. And I have been thinking about this a lot and still don't have an absolute. I couldn't condemn somebody if that's what they needed to make $100 or $200. I hope that they have a better way to doing it. But if they're not very good at
Yeah,
this and it's their crappy books anyway, does it hurt me? I don't think so. Here's what I really think. At the end of the day, if you're good at this stuff, there's plenty of work to be had. If you're not very good at it, then you're gonna have to consider something else, and the question is, will they get enough people that runs in parallel?
I think once we're all kicked out of the industry because they're replaced with AI, we should just make a bunch of snuff films.
Okay. Well,
I've got a recurring role for you, Don.
yeah, I was gonna say, the scripts have already been written. Talk to some peo yeah. Anyways, Lisa would probably have moments over my lifetime, she's had a few where it's like, "Okay, I will volunteer him for that role."
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing, but I wanna go back to something we said earlier on, and really, regardless of what may there's only so much we can do. One thing we can do is just say no.
Right.
Make sure that you are signing SAG-AFTRA contracts that have strong language about, um, not selling your work to AI or use it for training, they'll say. Make sure the contract prohibits that. It's in SAG-AFTRA audiobook contracts. I believe that NAVA, has that contract available for you to add as writers to your contract. Make sure that's signed. I know that if you do a union contract that's signed, the union will in fact go to court. They'll take care of the court costs. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. I don't know if NAVA's not the negotiating arm, so I don't know what they do, but their contracts does spell it out. So I think you need to need to. This is a business as well as an art, and you need to protect your
Intellectual
artistic
property.
property, which
Yeah,
is your voice and your performance.
right.
And I'm going to also remind you that one way to make sure your art and your performance is protectable is to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Be
yeah.
better than AI, and you can do that by being an actor. You don't have to coach with me.
Oh,
I'm doing fine. I'd love you to, but you don't have to. Coach with someone, learn some things. I every time I work with a new student, I learn something. I'm always learning. And
Rosanna,
there's no
who was on
reason
our
you should.
show, has a great comment here, and this is one of the things that I don't know, and I have to find out about the ACX thing. Um, if you're putting your toe in AI and you have some approval on what gets done with your replica voice on a project by project basis, that's different than if it's just they can do it for the next 400 years with or without your permission because you're giving away
Rosanna,
all the
Rosanna,
rights.
Dana, I've never seen that. I'm not saying it's not there. That also makes it incumbent upon you to understand, um, um, to understand what projects are there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to it's a great thing and a good writer to have. I like the one that says, "No."
Okay. Very complicated, Johnny.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then Rosanna's talking about listen, if I knew I was going to be gone and my voice could be, famous, okay, I guess I don't care anymore. But that's pretty selfish. Anyway, the legacy thing this is a whole different thing. And if you're already famous, that's a different thing. If it's going to be beyond, so yes. It's complicated, and I wish we had some great answers, but I think we've opened up a discussion, and it'll be
Yeah.
ongoing, and I don't see it stopping because this whole thing is going to change more in the next 2 years than it has the whole time. And even uh, I don't know about James Earl Jones.
I think that's true, Larry.
Is that
I think he did sell. I don't know if he did or his family did, but I think so, yeah.
okay? So but I mean, if once you pass, then hey, your family's the ones that's making the decision, and that's a whole different level of thing. So now that we're talking about passing, that's
That's right, yeah,
that's
yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody.
great.
Happy Diwali.
Yeah, great discussion for. So that's kind of a whole different secondary layer of the whole thing because really the part that's most important to me is what happens if I'm gonna plan on being around another 20 or 40 years, and then I go ahead and give my voice away now. I do want some protections against it. I want to know the details, and it's a long
Yeah,
road that we have in front
and
of us to figure all
and
this
one
stuff
quick
out.
question, if I said Johnny Heller sells Johnny Heller, so it's out there, they're making as many books, I can do 30 books in a year. They can do 172 books in a year if they want with my voice, because it's machine. I don't it's not hard work for me. I already did it apparently. How much will I make? How long will it go on? And will I ever get to work again? Why would they hire me at my rate when they can just make a book? Because I said
Well,
yes.
the only thing is that the right now, at least right now, the quality of it is not as good as when you're doing the acting.
Mm.
And obviously it can't. I mean, how do you do sarcasm or humor or anything that has any nuance in terms of
I don't
where
know.
the word bad does not mean bad. It
Yeah,
means
yeah.
good because there are a lot of words that have multiple meanings, and it's the context and the way you're performing it that lets your audience know that you're being sarcastic or you're not being
Yeah, yeah,
sarcastic or
yeah.
whatever. So yeah, it just really depends on the process. And so we'll get some more information on it over time. And as we know more, we'll discuss it more. Anybody have any holiday questions for us? Like Johnny, hey,
How they like, what's Christmas about?
yeah, yeah. How did Christmas come about, Johnny? Can you tell us? Uh,
What's a Santa thing anyway? How can that happen?
yeah. And I think there's somebody whose birthday is also on that. Anyway, um, do you have any
That's not
cool?
his real birthday. There's just no way.
That's correct. What?
That's mythic.
I
Okay,
think that's correct. I shouldn't say that's the
let's
correct.
start digging into religious alleged truth and
Yeah.
knocking to pieces, shall we?
What's your favorite meal for the holidays? Do you have a favorite
Mm,
holiday meal? You? Yeah.
oh, for Christmas?
Christmas, New Year, Christmas.
Jo
You're Jewish. You're Diwali.
Jo we go Joe and I go out to, our the Italian relatives out in, uh, um, Long Island, Queens border, and, they she whatever the heck she makes, um, I can't usually there's always ham, and and generally they make steak for me because I like steak, but I don't know what it's gonna be. Well, I don't to be honest, I mean, there are foods I like more than others, but what I really like about I just like I like giving people presents.
Yeah,
I really enjoy the look on their faces and the happiness, and I like that.
that's cool.
I'm horrible to buy for because I'm like, "Why would I wear this?"
Yeah.
I'm the worst. Like, it's a thought that counts. My view is, "What the hell are you thinking?" But I do like giving presents.
Yeah,
So, there's
you're
a big
you know
fam
what? And isn't that one of there's a thing called the love languages, and that's one of them, and that means you fit into that category that's the thing that for you portrays that you like somebody.
I
And
like spreading joy like little shit bombs everywhere I go.
super cool, super cool. Well, Johnny's always been famous for doing little things for the people that he knows fairly well. He's giving gifts and that kind of thing. And it's always like, oh gosh, that's so cool. And it's a noticeable thing because most people don't do it well like you do it. And oh, let's see. So now
Now we're
people,
getting stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Latkes.
Uh,
Sherry Gelper, latkes. I like and pecan pie. Ooh, I like pecan pie.
Yeah, and what I don't even know, so pecan pie is excellent. We do pumpkin pies from scratch. Lisa makes those from scratch, so that's something that we've had most years. And yeah, yeah, Lisa, we're getting into
In
religion and
in
politics with
yeah,
Johnny and Don. That's not going to happen this
yeah,
year.
in an early Hanukkah celebration, I had, half of a, lox and bagel with cream cheese this morning
There,
already. So typic
yeah, well,
I don't have that a lot, but once in a while I do.
yeah,
I was Manhattan here, there's so many great, Jewish delis with these fantastic bagels and stuff.
yeah. Well, we only
Yeah.
we only have a few of them here in LA, but there are some excellent ones. And yeah, my grandfather spoke a little bit of Hebrew and Russian Jew. We come from that kind of
Yeah.
background in my way back, so he always was taking me to great delis here when he was around. So good memories there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, any final cool things that you can tell us about coming up for the next year, Johnny?
Let me think real quick. I've got some, hotel information I'm trying to put together for Santa Fe in May.
Cool, cool.
If that's gonna happen, follow me at the Johnny Heller Workshop alumni page for that information. That's likely to happen, but I'm not promising,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I know that, we're gonna try and get some workshops and things set up. I really to be honest, I don't know what in the world I'm gonna do yet. I haven't made definitive plans. I've got some great books coming up beginning of the year, and, my own project's coming up early in January. It's Harpo Speaks. It's a public domain project. It's Harpo Marx, his book, and I did it, and I don't know if you know how Harpo Marx is, but you never hear him speak. He's the one that doesn't speak at all, and there's one little bit of audio you can find him, and he kinda talks like this, like a New York kind of older guy, and this but I couldn't do a whole book of that. I didn't think it was fun, so I did, Groucho with a deeper voice because I
cool.
can do that.
When does that coming out?
2nd week of January.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
So we're just so you're
just
so obviously you already you're done with it. It's in the can and
oh, yeah, the cover's out, it's through distributing through Blackstone, and it's gonna be, I don't know, I want you guys to buy it because I get loot for it. That's
yeah.
my passive income, but I spent a lot of time and loot putting it together, but it's a labor of love, and again, my friend Karen Commons was the one who's, made that happen. And what do you have going on, Don?
I'm working on a new. I've been said this for the last few weeks. I'm just about finished with Lisa's new narration
Website?
website, and I'm contemplating whether I let other people, like I host and do that for a bunch of other people too. So I'm finishing that up, and
You
that'll
you host websites as well?
well, that's the thing is I've got all the infrastructure to do it because I have to host all my content for the courses. I pay for servers. I mean, I don't host them. I have a
Yeah,
server. I have a company. I mean,
yeah,
like everybody else, I outsource all that stuff, and I have a killer hosting company that does all that handles that part of it. But because of that, and doing our courseware over the years, I have all the infrastructure to do that, and so I'm going to host some. I'm certainly going to host Lisa's new one. I'm going to do it for my son. I've got a couple other
I'll
narrators that,
talk to you about it 'cause I use my nephew-in-law because he's my nephew-in-law.
yeah, it makes
But
sense. It makes absolute perfect sense. So the point is I'm trying to figure out, do I want to host it for a bunch of others? I have the infrastructure, and if I needed more, they charge me. I mean, I pay for this stuff already just to have all our courseware. So we've got a
yeah.
sale going on our courses now, right now through the
Oh,
holidays.
yeah.
So people can check that out. VOjumpstart.com, which is up on our screen all the time. Check that out. But we're looking for a fabulous new year. And of course, one of the things I will say, Heller can be a pain in person, but he's a joy when I'm working with him here. We've done, we're getting close to like 70 of these now that we have done, and we've missed maybe 2 weeks where we were at the New England conference. But we've only missed 2 or 3 weeks out of the last 70 weeks that we've done this. It's pretty amazing, and you're a joy to work with. So I'm actually proud that I get a chance to sit next to you virtually every week. But he suggested this. I didn't, and he
I
thought of
did?
it. You did. You were the one that you contacted me and said we should do this, and I said yes, we should have done this 2 years ago. But I appreciate you inviting me
I
to it originally.
I
Yeah.
think it's the opposite,
Do you? I think you're
but I
wrong.
don't remember.
All right, let's get in an argument about it.
Shut up, Don.
I hate you. I hate you. Still.
All right, everyone, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Listen, have a great, great holiday with your family and friends. Be of good cheer. Life is not as bad as you think,
Yeah. It's actually
for
pretty
the
damn
most
good.
part. And 2025 can be the best year you've ever had if you want it to be.
Yeah, and if we can help with that in any way, be sure to get a hold of us. You have a fantastic Christmas. We are dark for New Year's next week, and then we'll be back right after the first of the year, whatever the week is after that. We'll have some notices out there. So really appreciate you guys attending. Share it, like it, pass it on to your friends, and we'll talk to you in the new year. Have a great day, and of
So long,
course,
all.
see you
Love
on the
you.
wires. Bye bye.